Hello, everyone. Welcome to Optimized for Humans, a podcast that's focused on how we can make the best of human potential in the workplace and strategically outsource the rest to artificial intelligence. My name is Usha. I'm an executive coach and consultant. I support organizations in becoming more human centric and high performing. And I am very excited today to be speaking with Mai Ton. Mai is an award winning chief people officer with over 20 years of experience leading and scaling human capital strategy, particularly during periods of complex corporate transformation. Some of her awards include being named one of the top 50 tech leaders and one of top 20 tech trailblazers. And the companies that she's worked for have earned 14 Best Places to Work awards on Fortune magazine. She's also the author of Come Into My Office, Stories from an HR Leader in Silicon Valley. And she's the founder and CEO of EMP HR Consulting and a proud mother of a 17-year-old who's a rising senior this year. Maya, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me and including me. I'm excited to talk with you today, Usha.
So I'd love to kind of mine your wisdom, especially from an HR perspective. And I'd love to start with, what do you think are some unique human skills that organizations should be paying attention to and making sure they have that?
I just think some of these skills we've been talking about, so I don't know if everything's changed. I know it has, but between the softer skills of
Yeah,
communication and adaptability and resilience, I know that post-COVID life, we had to
yeah,
actually deploy more of those skills, and the workplace seemed to get more complex for us. And so I still lean on those three skills:
yeah.
communication, adaptability, and resilience. They're just even more powerful in today's changing ecosystem.
That really resonates. And I think too, as AI disrupts more and more of the workplace, and there's more and more change that comes from that, both positive and disruptive. That piece around adaptability and resilience seems especially crucial in building that partnership between the people and the AI. Because I actually think at the end of the day, it's the partnership and a strong partnership that's going to be really meaningful in terms of creating the results that organizations really want.
Oh, totally. I think the one thing that I've learned in my 20-year career is that change is what's constant. And so if we're able to adapt to the pace and the
Yeah.
speed at which things are coming our way, especially AI, with all the tools that are out there now, I just feel like sometimes we can layer in our human side by actually taking a beat, pausing, and thinking about, like, what are we solving for? What does all of this mean,
Yeah.
and where are we going together?
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything from an HR perspective that really stands out to you in terms of how HR teams are thinking about adopting AI and kind of scaling AI across organizations?
Yeah, Usha, I have a lot of clients now where HR folks are now head of or leading the AI transformation in their organizations. And it is amazing to me the breadth and depth of this role now, which is
Mm,
exciting for a lot of HR leaders. But it's a
yeah,
daunting task to integrate how to use AI and where we should use it and where we should kind of stay human centered. But that balance for some companies is tipping with the hustle culture that we have. Because of the
mm,
speed and pace at which things are moving, I feel like everybody is on the AI bandwagon. They want to do things and create things and build AI agents and kind
yeah,
of build their own apps. And there's so many tools and so much technology out there that right now, I think I read a study, like 95% of the AI projects are not um, successful yet. I think we're still experimenting and the pace of change is rapid. And so I just, I don't know what your original question was, but that's why my mind is on fire, just because I'm trying to
yeah.
adapt to all of the new technologies and kind of put them in place in the workplace where we can all build a system that works for all of us.
Yeah, I think HR teams will play a really critical role in this because we can't just think of this as a technological implementation, and of course even with technological implementation, like we know that when it's like larger scale, it works best when you're actually taking a more of a people-centered lens through that and really building a partnership across that. So all of that really resonates for me a lot.
Yeah, and Usha, you had mentioned or asked about like what's the one skill that's important. And what I've learned through trying out AI agents of my own and building things on my own is that I actually think we need to spend the time to unlearn some of
Mm,
the standards or use cases that we grew up with that maybe just untangling what we think we know is the start of really being able to use these powerful AI tools, because I find that it's hard that if you don't start with the right prompts or the right
yeah,
questions, you can go down chasing a rabbit hole of different tangential
yeah,
issues that you're kind of solving around a core problem, but you haven't defined the problem. And so I've seen teams get lost that they
yeah,
set out to build something and then they
yeah,
built something totally different. And I think that's why unlearning some of the things that some of the assumptions, some of the
yeah,
things we think we knew, I think that's the hardest part. It's a skill I'm still trying to develop. It's very hard to unglue
yeah,
all of the synapses. But I find that if you can do that, it's a much better place to start.
yeah. And interestingly, I think with that whole piece around like what are humans, what is the role of humans in this new landscape? That piece that you said around like being really clear about what is the problem that we're trying to solve and having a shared vision of that across the team and across the organization. And I'm sure you see this, and I see this often, which is like you'll start with a particular problem and then the teams start to move in AI with or without AI in the picture. Sometimes things get watered down, sometimes things just kind of change over time, and there's like politics that come into play, etc. But there's something about like really holding the original intention and coming to that in a way that's shared vision and shared intention, and ensuring that that is actually the problem you're trying to solve for. Some of those threads feel increasingly more important as we play with some of these tools.
Yeah. Usha, I don't know about you, but do you find it hard to slow your brain down some days? Like,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
and I think that's what's happening is that we've gotten so used to the pace and frenetic speed at which we
Yeah,
have to feel like we're producing something that
yeah,
sometimes it's hard to just slow down to make sure that everybody's aligned or that our original intent was still the vision that we want. And I think that's
yeah,
what I'm finding is not only hard to untangle some of the assumptions, but it's hard to slow down and kind of
yeah,
pause to make sure that, you know what we're building or what we're solving for is what we really need to solve for. And I think that never has there been more of a time when you can experiment. I feel like
mm,
failing now is okay. In the past, there
yeah,
was a little bit of taboo, a little bit of risk involved, especially for bigger corporations that didn't want that type of risk. But I think
yeah,
now there's a little bit of grace with knowing that maybe you didn't set out to build this, but you built something that maybe isn't quite right, but it's still a good build. Like you
yeah,
still did something to augment your skills and to think about things differently. And I think failure isn't about failing. Failure is learning and
yeah,
iterating as you go. And so I think that there's more of an appetite. And a lot of
yeah,
my clients, they set out to do one thing and then we end up doing
yeah,
something else. And it's
yeah.
okay. I think that's how we're all learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's just something about like being conscious and mindful together and sort of being conscious and mindful and also being aligned around that as we iterate, as we learn, and as we continue, that feels just more and more important, and to actually stay true to, the intentions we start out with while being really adaptive at the same time feels really
Yeah.
meaningful during this time.
Are you seeing that in your coaching business as well? Is that people are having to adapt and slow down and kind of be
Yeah.
okay with perhaps taking a different direction than they originally planned?
Yeah, I think it's really important, and I think it's always in the last few decades, I'll say. I think the pace of change has dictated that, has dictated a test and learn strategy, experimentation. And as we move more and more towards sort of an uncertain context where things are constantly in flux, that seems more and more crucial than ever. And I think it's teams that have clear direction and like freedom on the how they get there. That feels like the magic um, potion, if you will, of like, this is what we're really trying to achieve. This is the outcome we're trying to achieve. Go about it how you want to. And really, teams that have the freedom to try a bunch of things and fail and learn quickly and adapt, those have definitely been the teams that have had the most success in that for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. The freedom of the how you do things. I think it is representative of the times in which we're living. And
Yeah.
I think it's all exciting. And I think it's a
Yeah.
thrilling time to be in a workplace, just
Yeah.
because I feel that everybody's trying to develop things and trying to
Yeah.
understand and get ahead of the uncertainty. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that I hope people are thriving. It can be stressful, I'm sure. And some
Yeah.
days I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I just started something that I'm not going to be able to continue. I can't pull that thread and follow it. It doesn't have a normal linear line. So it feels
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but I think through time, maybe it'll start to feel better.
Yeah. How do you I'm curious sort of how do you, as you're leading change and transformation, how do you balance sort of empathy with, the need for pace, the need for success and all of those different things as you're leading change yourself?
Well, interestingly, my business is called EMP HR Consulting, and I'm
Mhm.
a fractional consultant now. But the EMP stands for empathetic because I actually
Oh,
score high on empathy, and
yeah.
it maybe is part of my superpower as an HR leader that I can
Yeah.
balance what's right for the business with what's right for
Yeah.
employees. But I feel that the more I talk about the times when things didn't work out, or the times
Mm,
when I solved the wrong problem,
mhm.
by leading by example and showing that it's okay, that's how I lead with empathy. It's sort of like I don't think anybody knows exactly where we're going to go and how we're going to get there, but we're all trying and we're
Mm,
all, putting in a hard day's work to really build successful and meaningful um, projects and missions. Um,
yeah.
But I just feel like there's grace now that it's okay. It's not a perfect, straight,
Yeah.
linear line anymore. You have to experiment. You have to fail a little bit to learn and iterate. And I think
Yeah.
the more I can show that I'm doing that, the better it is for an organization to see that, you know what, we're all learning together.
Yeah. And I'm curious to hear your perspective on, I think a lot of people are holding fear around AI, particularly around their jobs being disrupted, possibly their jobs becoming irrelevant to an organization. And I'm curious, sort of, what advice would you have for leaders in terms of having empathy around that and navigating quite a tough line themselves around that? Because there may be some trade-offs that do need to be made.
Oh, the big F word, right? Fear. Oh, it's hard. It's very hard. But I used to work for a startup company that it's like 3 or 4 years ago now. Time is flying by. I can't remember the dates anymore, but it was a robotics company, and the
Mhm,
robots are here, and
mhm,
AI is here.
mhm.
And I think that all of this is related to making humans more efficient with what they should be doing, which is higher order thinking, creative thinking, something that the robots and AI can't do quite yet. And I always felt that we should embrace it. If the robots and AI are here to give us back some of our thinking time, then we should take it. I
Yeah.
want to do the more creative things. I want time and space to pause, to really do the heavy lifting of thinking. Sometimes
Mm,
in our day, I don't know if your days are like this, Usha, but I have many clients where they just go back to back, meeting to meeting,
yeah,
call to
absolutely.
call. They don't have any time to actually do the work. And
Yeah.
so I say with AI, robots, and anything else that is supposed to augment the human experience, I
Yeah.
say bring it on so that we can do more creative and better things with our time. Now, I know that sounds perhaps a little bit tone deaf to those people who are maybe entry level college graduates, but I think that the world has changed and the jobs that existed, you know, whatever, 20 years ago, in the next 2 years aren't going to exist anymore. And that's actually
Yeah.
about evolution. And that's
Yeah.
good because, like I said, I want like people's time focused on themselves to make sure that they're thriving and focused inward to say, okay, let's build something great.
Yeah. I think there's, entry level jobs. I think that's especially where there's a lot of fear of like, oh, these will be, these are sort of seemingly simple enough tasks that can be outsourced quickly. And and I think there's something to be said about helping reimagine what would you do with that human workforce then if you're outsourcing these tasks, and to actually like reimagine what's possible, especially with like young people entering the workforce, like the kind of energy and fresh eyes that they bring, like what an incredible gift. And what
Oh
are the
my
ways
gosh.
in which we can really mine for that rather than thinking of them as like a pair of hands? I think, if we can outsource the pair of hands to mechanical hands, like what's possible, and to actually really be, I think there's like a mindset shift of like
Mhm.
every the importance of like every human brings a certain perspective that's unique, and what are the ways in which we can bring that to be in service of the purpose of an organization, and to really harness that through like good leadership rather than we don't need these pair of hands anymore. And I'm not
Oh, yeah.
necessarily suggesting that people don't make um, trade-offs and that there aren't, you keep an unnecessary number of people on board. But I think it's more about reimagining what the roles are that everyone plays in this new landscape.
Yeah, I want to talk about my time when I was the chief people officer at Kickstarter. It's one of the few US companies where we launched a 4-day work week. And, and,
Hmm.
and that means 32 hours,
Yeah,
100% pay. It's not,
yeah,
9, 10 hour days. It is 32
yeah.
hours a week. And what happened was we said, why don't we find a way to highlight what people are doing with the extra day. Like, what
Hmm.
is that extra 8 hours going to? And it was beautiful on our Slack channels. We
Hmm.
got pictures of people spending time with their family or making
Mm.
trips to the grocery store or to the nearby farm where they picked berries. We got, snapshots of them finally going to cooking school because they had a chance and time to finally take a cooking class. Or, people that started to pick up sewing. And it was just this beautiful, motley array of what people can do when they're given back time in their lives. That experiment allowed us to kind of increase retention rates. We had like 10 times the amount of applications for the roles that we were hiring. I mean, it was
Hmm.
just a new way and a new mindset, like you said, Usha. I just think back to that time and I can still see the photos and images of what people gave us when we said, "What are you doing with that extra day? Send us whatever you want." Oh, it was so beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's a whole other sort of mindset shift that comes up for me in that of like, what is our time as humans in general,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
actually, go
when you
ahead.
talk about reimagining, that's what comes to my mind because we spend a lot of time at work, and we sacrifice time away from family and friends, which I think are the most important things of
Yeah,
where and people that you should be spending time with. So I
yeah,
always thought that my job was to make that sacrifice worth it, especially being
yeah,
a chief people officer. And
yeah,
so I just think if we can get ahead and kind of break this mold of hustle culture, I think it'll be healthier for humans. I mean, there are so many stories and people that I know that are burnt out,
Mhm.
exhausted, and they have a bucket list of items, but then when they finally retire, they're either too sick to
Yeah.
travel and do the things on the bucket list. And then I have friends that don't even have a bucket list because they don't even have time to think about a bucket list. So,
Yeah.
Usha, I think time and attention are so scarce now that I'd like to reimagine, with the augment and of tools and technology to help us gain back some of that humanity.
Yeah. And just to play devil's advocate here, for the people who might say, well, that's sacrificing productivity by freeing up more time to people. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I think the human brain needs to rest.
Mm.
And they have proven, so scientists have proven sleep deprivation is not a good thing. And I think if you look around the world today, especially me working in the field of HR, there are many people that are deeply medicated, very sick. I've had to look up different type of conditions because I didn't know what they were, because I think people are silently suffering. And so
Yeah.
when we talk about productivity or human efficiency, it isn't getting like the best out of everybody and squeezing them for every drop of energy they have. It is actually like being a little bit more thoughtful around, if you want to invest in people for the long run, give them some free time, give them some liberty to take a day off or take some time off or drop their daughter at school, or for me
Yeah.
to watch Emma's volleyball game. I think I
Yeah.
need that in order to do really good work. But
Yeah.
I found that when companies don't give you that free time or that space to experiment, they just burn out quicker. And then you don't get them for the long run. You get very short spurts of productive people. And I just don't think that's sustainable for the long run.
Yeah, and I think as well, like that's not going to be conducive. Those are not the conditions that are going to be supportive for people to be creative, for people to come up with their best ideas. There is this piece around like we're in a knowledge economy. So actually, if we're wanting people for their brains and their minds and their empathy and all of that is not doesn't necessarily run on a clock, right?
That's
Um,
right. That's right. Oh my gosh. And even the return to office mandates that are happening, I
yeah.
just think that we've gone backwards. I mean, COVID, we proved that we can work from anywhere and still remain
Yeah,
productive. But
yeah,
this return to office mandate where you have to be in person, and
yeah.
I know many people that are taking Zoom calls when they're in the office.
I know.
And I just, I scratch my head because I say, you have to give your employees a little bit of freedom and flexibility, because when you do that, they will work harder for you. They will give
Yeah,
you discretionary effort. And that's what I see some companies making the mistake of doing, is just like going back to the old norms of a pre-COVID world that we don't live in anymore.
yeah. What's your sense of what's driving some of that behavior from maybe from a leadership perspective?
Well, I've heard all sorts of things, Usha, and I think that it comes down to one word, and it's trust.
Mm,
Sometimes leaders don't believe or don't trust that you're working. So,
yeah,
yes, I may be making a snack, but I need to feed myself so that I
yeah,
can go back to work and be like fully energized and have the agency to kind of
yeah,
dictate my own schedule of, maybe, because we're in different time zones, what is your morning is my nighttime. Because I think that's also what's changed. It's that the world has gone remote. There's a lot of talent that's all over the world. So just because I
yeah,
send you a Slack at, you know, 8 a.m. my time, it may be 6 p.m. somewhere else. And we have to be able to leverage that talent is all over the world and trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And I wholeheartedly believe that if you treat people like adults, they will take care of your business. If you treat them well, give them trust, they will take care of the business. And I've seen that prove over and over again. It's the reason why, especially when I was an in-house HR leader, those trust indexes scored high, which is how we
Mm,
won so many awards, because we
yeah.
trusted our people to do what was right for the company.
Right. Right. I think that's another sort of, we're outlining quite a few mindset shifts, but that feels like a really fundamental one of, the first large organizations were factories where people were essentially the pairs of hands, the robots, if you will, and that time in was productivity out. That was a linear equation. But now that's actually not true,
Oh,
some
yeah.
of my best ideas might come at any time during the day or night, and forcing me to be, in a cubicle from 9 to whenever isn't necessarily, it may or may not be the right condition for ideas, for creativity, for collaboration. And there is something about re recognizing that this is a different game we're playing right now. And actually trust, I think, really gets to the heart of, like, how do you create an organization where people are inspired by the mission and the purpose of the organization, and they're you're wanting them to contribute, they want to contribute, and you create conditions where they're interested in that rather than like compliance and
hmm
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely on the progressive side of being an HR leader. I think
Yeah.
that, there are definitely companies that still are keeping track of badge swipes,
Yeah.
that you have to swipe in or your laptop when you're on it, they know when you're on it. And I just feel
Yeah.
like that big brother-ish concept
Yeah.
is very outdated. And especially for the newer generations that are coming into the workplace, like Gen
Yeah.
Z definitely doesn't appreciate being watched, being monitored, and maybe
Yeah.
you have some traditional, like when I think of the legal industry or banking, maybe in those big organizations, that's why they have to
Sure.
do it. But I
Yeah.
think the world is changing. And I think in order to attract the really
Yeah.
up and coming talent for the future, you have to shift the mindsets of what is unique and what would bring out your best work. And I'll bet if I asked many leaders that, they wouldn't tell me that it is monitoring software or badge swipes in or long commute times. Uh,
Yeah.
it is more of the ability to think and the ability to do good work. I think that's
Yeah.
why a lot of newer folks and even AI engineers who are being recruited left and right, they're looking for those flexible companies that understand that you can do a lot from a laptop and a computer screen, and you don't have to do it in the vicinity of your teammate. You can do it from afar. Lots of tools and technology for all of us to exist together and
Yeah.
collaborate in different ways. So, yeah, big fan
Yeah.
of those companies who want to transform the way we work together.
Yeah. I mean, you're really kind of getting at the core of human nature, right? Which is like, when we're forced to do something or mandated to do something, we're not, that's not motivating. That's not that's not automatically going to inspire a desire to move in towards a certain outcome. And I know for me, when I've been parts of organizations that do operate that way, there's like more calculation on my part of like not overextending myself because it feels transactional. Um,
hmm
in a way that when I've been a part of teams where there's a real sense of like, we're in this together, we're trying to do something that we're all inspired by. Like there's no counting happening even.
Oh, yeah. And I wish that people would recognize that some days because I'm
Yeah.
working with a company now where the leadership team, there's no one size fits all. Like what
Yeah.
might work for you may not work for me, and vice versa. But the trick is being able to talk about what we're all trying to do together
Yeah.
because we're all on the same team. I think that's
Yeah.
what companies don't recognize is that you're inputting counterproductive measures for
Yeah.
teammates to battle each other when the competition is outside of your walls. And
Yeah.
so The question has to be, what type of environment do we want to create that brings out your best work? And
Yeah.
for the answers are varied and different for everybody, but being able to have that dialogue and that conversation starts with a really healthy place of, you know what? I know you work a lot. I know you work hard. Let's try to do something great together. How do we do it?
Yeah.
So, I in some of the companies where I've worked, I have a how to work with me document, which shows
I
like
love
how
that.
I score on personality test, what
Yeah.
I prioritize, because I am the proud mother of a rising senior and she is my boss. And so I love the flexibility that I have, especially now as a consultant, to go and watch her volleyball games or to go attend college tours with her. And that's why I think I enjoy my work even more now because I have
Yeah.
the flexibility to do good work for the whatever hour of time in the morning before anything starts.
Yeah.
And I think that is the future. I think that's the future I'm trying to create in some of the clients where I work. And it's also that future is already here. There's many
Yeah.
companies that are already doing that. So I don't
Yeah.
want to go backwards with the old factory days and punching in and
Yeah.
punching out. Those seem very antiquated for our modern day workplaces.
Yeah. And what would your advice be to senior leaders who might be listening to this conversation? What would your advice be on how they can make their organizations more human centric and how they can create a more high impact future?
It's always a hard one. There's always, I just find that there's never a magic bullet, but I feel that sometimes the best work I've done with the teams that I've had are because we know each other. We
Mm,
trust and we know each other because we've had conversations about, you know what, are you a morning person or are you a night owl?
mhm,
Do you really like text or do you like Slack? Like, what's the best way to reach you? All of these conversations are small nuggets of information that then we can use and kind of adapt to each other's styles. And when we're able to do that and have really tough conversations, give each other
mm,
real feedback, then that's
mhm.
where I find that those teams thrive. Because you
Yeah,
know what? I'm telling you that maybe that a shirt that I'm wearing today isn't my best shirt. And I can tell you that because I want you to know that this is my day today. I'm not feeling that well, or I'm not
yeah,
on my game today. And those really tender moments at work
yeah,
bring out the humanity that we've somehow sometimes lost in duress
yeah,
and high pressure situations. So I just feel like if you're a senior leader listening to this podcast, I want you to just pause and kind of go out, take somebody out on a coffee date over Zoom or in person. It doesn't matter, but you just need some time to have real conversation to understand what motivates each person. And when you're able to do that,
mm.
that's when you do good work together.
Yeah, and I think those human moments and those human connections are actually going to be more and more important as the AI disruption happens, because I think more of those automated tasks will be outsourced to that. And I think more and more the human work is going to be making decisions together, critically thinking together, aligning together, all of these things, like working through conflict together, and all of
Mhm.
these things have connection as a foundation. For them to go well, connection is a core part of the foundation.
Oh, yes, Usha. I just think that if you're able to do some deliberate, thoughtful planning
Mm,
up ahead of a project or before a launch of any initiative, it actually makes things better because you can talk and anticipate around corners and view things from a higher altitude before you just start solving problems, before you just start going in there, which I think is the tendency in this
yeah.
crazy frenetic pace that that we're living through. But I just think that pausing to acknowledge that, you know what, here's everything that I'm thinking about, like, let's talk about this, I think ends up working out better. And those are the
Mhm.
companies that I really enjoy working for. It's just thoughtful leaders who aren't trying to squeeze so much
Yeah.
lemon out of the, or squeeze so much juice out of the lemon, like that there's no more juice left. It is more
Yeah.
like, you know what? How do we sustain this? How do we do good work and sustain ourselves? And actually, like, celebrate our wins and actually learn from our failures. Like, all of this is the human element of work that now is magnified under the pressures of AI.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. One of the things that really excites me about this disruption is that I think it gives us a real opportunity as well as a push and a need to actually amplify the more human aspects of work that I think HR leaders for many years have been speaking about the importance of, building those foundations. And I think this, if done well, this actually gives us more of a platform to do that. And I'm so grateful to you for sharing your insight and wisdom. Thank you today for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I'm excited to get ahead of the future that we're already living in. So I'm looking for more progressive HR leaders to join me in this, because I do think we have to disrupt the old versions of the way we used to do things. And that is quite a journey. And I'm excited for the road ahead. So thank you so much for having me, Usha.